Thor is a film that came out in 2011. It is the 4th film in the MCU's history. It is also the 4th film in my Marvel Cinematic Universe series of reviews that I am doing leading up to Avengers Infinity War, which comes out in 2 weeks, actually. Wow, time flies. Time flies just like Thor. And in this movie, Thor is played by Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth, before this movie, I only knew him as the guy that was Chris Pine's father in Star Trek. It also stars Anthony Hopkins, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Natalie Portman as Jane, Kat Dennings as Darcy, and you've also got this film directed by Kenneth Branagh, who is also a very talented actor and director. This movie is basically a bare-bones origin story for Thor. Thor, the Norse god of legend. Thor grows up in the magical realm of Asgard. Thor is a great warrior. He has a brother. He has his friends. Life is good. One day, Thor is about to be crowned king, and then some frost giants come in there and they ruin the party a little bit. Thor gets pissed, he takes his friends, he goes to the frost giants world, and they get into a big old scrap. A pretty awesome scrap, if I say so myself, but unfortunately this broke a long-standing truce between Asgard and the frost giants. Odin's pissed about it, so Odin decides, okay, Thor, lose your powers, lose your hammer, I am banishing you to Earth. And he casts Thor down to Earth, and once Thor is on Earth, he meets Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman. He meets her friend Darcy, played by Kat Dennings, and so Thor has to go on basically a journey of self-discovery. That's what this movie is. I'm not really a die-hard Thor fan, but I have read a few of his comics, and I did see him in some of the animated stuff growing up. My understanding of Thor has always been that he is kind of the perfect contradiction of a character. Both so over the top that you can't really take him serious, but at the same time, he's also a very serious character, so serious that he feels over the top. One of those weird straddle the fence things, and that's what I understand about Thor. He's a king, but he's also kind of weird around regular people who aren't Asgardians. He's very arrogant and proud as a warrior, but at the same time, he looks out for his fellow man. He's always down to help others in need. And Chris Hemsworth embodied all of these qualities in this movie. This was a very solid coming out party for Chris Hemsworth, who totally owns the role of Thor. Really, the cast in general was such a strong point of this movie. Kenneth Branagh and his casting department, whoever did the casting for this movie, bravo. Bravo. You got the legendary Anthony Hopkins playing Odin of all people. Odin was pretty damn awesome in this movie, and Anthony Hopkins lent such presence to the role. Granted, Odin is not really in the movie all that much. He disappears about halfway through because, reasons. But I gotta say, Anthony Hopkins more than holds his own as Thor's father. There's a really great scene early on in this movie when Odin finds out that Thor took his friends and went against his word.
While you wait and be patient, the 9 realms laugh at us. The old ways are done. You'd stand giving speeches while Asgard falls.
You are a vain, greedy, cruel boy!
And you are an old man and a fool!
And the scene between him and Chris Hemsworth, man, that's just great stuff. It's a very powerful scene with very good acting from the actors involved, and a lot of powerful emotion is being conveyed. I rewatched that scene for this review, and I couldn't help but sit there and thinking like, damn, where was this emotion in Ragnarok? I know, Ragnarok is in the future, and it's with a different director, and it's a different take on the character, and I get all of that. But I'm just saying, this movie had that. Like I said, Odin does disappear about halfway through the movie because Loki confronts him because apparently Loki is a frost giant. During that battle with the frost giants, Loki discovered there was something weird about his hand. It started to turn blue whenever he actually got touched by a frost giant. So he confronts Odin and he's like, okay, what am I? And Odin's basically like, yeah, long time ago during that battle with the frost giants, I basically took you in. You're a frost giant, but you're raised as an Asgardian. Loki gets pissed understandably because this is an existential crisis for him. He's having a crisis of identity now. But it's kind of funny the way the scene is portrayed. It's almost like Odin got tired of hearing Loki's mouth and he just decided to go to sleep for the rest of the movie. I know, it's the famed Odin sleep. They mentioned this in the movie. Odin is so powerful that he basically has to take a nap once a year to recharge his battery. But the way it's portrayed in the movie, it's almost like he got tired of Loki's bullshit and he's just kind of like, okay, I'm just done. Like, fellas, you ever had a woman that's just been on your case, like nagging, like getting on you for whatever reason, and you just get sick of it? You ever just sit down and just start tuning her out until she sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher? Yeah, that feels like what Odin did. It's like, oh my God, Loki, you're still talking. Okay, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm going to sleep. Have at it, Loki. Whatever. Yeah, you're abused. I don't care. Sleep. Dang, rewatching that scene, it's kind of funny. Speaking of Loki, this was the birth of one of Marvel's greatest villains. Tom Hiddleston is perfection as Loki. Honestly, he really is. It's not just a great performance for a great character, but he fully embodies everything that you would expect Loki to be on the big screen. You see this even more in future movies. He is the villain of the first Avengers movie, but especially in this movie, he feels like a tragic villain. He's a villain that's trying to find his place in the world. Like I said earlier, he's having a crisis of identity. He's a guy who's not just trying to be evil to Thor because I don't like him and he's more handsome than me and he gets everything. There's also hints of a wounded son in his portrayal. He's a guy who's trying to please his father. The guy's trying to prove that he can be just as good as Thor. When he finds out that he is a frost giant, his instinct isn't to become more like a frost giant. His instinct is to become more like an Asgardian and wipe the frost giants out. Yeah, that'll show Daddy that I mean business. Basically do the same thing that Thor wanted to do earlier in the movie, but I would be better at it. Loki, Tom Hiddleston, once again, bravo. I'll also say something that's slightly controversial, but it's just my opinion. I think this actually has the best action sequences of any Thor movie. Granted, in Thor Ragnarok, Thor is the most powerful version of himself, so he gets to kick more ass, but I'm just saying, the way the action scenes in this film were helmed and the way they were shot, Kenneth Branagh, this guy knows how to helm an action scene. Frost Giant scene that I mentioned where Thor and his friends get into a big old fight with the Frost Giants. Yeah, sure, it's glossy CGI, but there's a lot of gritty edge to that fight that really makes it even more fun to watch. It's a great action scene when Thor is on Earth and he's trying to get his hammer, but S.H.I.E.L.D. has formed a tent around the hammer. So Thor has to basically break down and break through S.H.I.E.L.D.'s defenses, and he has to face I don't know, 7, 8 of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s best trained soldiers. He kicks all their asses, including the big one. There's always a big one. I love Thor's line to him where he's like, oh wow, you're big. I fought bigger. He takes him out and it's pretty awesome. By the way, this is also the token Hawkeye cameo because, we gotta set up Avengers shit for later. Like I said, it's a talented cast. Natalie Portman is Jane Foster. She's basically Thor's love interest once he gets to Earth. This is where some of my issues with this movie start popping, and I don't really buy the whole Jane Foster-Thor romantic dynamic. Part of this is a time-related issue because the movie feels very cramped and condensed. The way the film is paced, it makes it seem like Thor is only on Earth for 2 days. Out of 2 days, this dude went through all of the human trials and errors. He failed, he got his hammer back, he became a better person, he saved the whole town, he fell in love. I would have liked it if we had taken a little bit more time to flesh out his journey on Earth. I would have liked it if we had actually seen him spend extended amounts of time on Earth learning and growing as a person. Instead, it feels kind of truncated and rushed and a little bit crammed, and it just feels like, okay, 2 days and just here we are now. The biggest aspect that suffers because of this is the relationship between Thor and Jane. I just don't really buy it. I don't buy the chemistry. The chemistry feels like they're forced to fit together as opposed to characters and actors who actually want to be together. Don't get me wrong, I get why Jane Foster would want to sit on Thor's face. I mean, look at the guy. Look at him. He's huge. He's such a hunka. I'm just saying that in the movie it comes off as more forced, and as a result, whenever she's on screen and there's romantic sparks or whatever the case may be, you just feel like she's only trying to smash Thor and Thor is only trying to find something to keep his interest while he's on Earth. Then we get to another big issue with this movie, which is Darcy. I always have a perpetual moment of silence on this show for women that are perpetually on the she can get it list. And Kat Dennings is no exception, so let's have a moment of silence. Ooh, girl, you don't know what I do to you. Woo, shit. All of that aside, Darcy is annoying as shit in this movie, I hate to say. She's really only in the movie to be quirky comic relief, and most of it doesn't really work, and outside of the comic relief, she's kind of useless as a character. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that I can forgive when it comes to Kat Dennings. I would totally forgive her in any situation because of how fine she is. Let's just say me and Kat Dennings were married in real life, and then she comes home one day and she's like, hey, honey, I accidentally sort of slaughtered everybody at Walmart. You know what I would do? Straight face, no bullshit. I would look her directly in her eyes and I would say, you know what? That's okay. We'll figure it out. I love you, okay? I love you. We will work this out. Kind of makes me a bad person, but my point stands. So anytime the Jane Foster, Darcy stuff was happening on Earth, I found myself getting a little bit bored watching this thing. Things certainly did liven up a little bit when Lady Sif and the Warriors 3 showed up on Earth. That was pretty fun. Those guys are over the top no matter what universe or what Earth they're on, and it was really fun to see them in their roles. They're the perfect supporting ride or die characters. All they're in this movie for is to support Thor, and you love them because of it. And they're so cheesy cheesy and corny, but at the same time genuine and earnest and sincere that you can't help but like them as Thor's best friends. In the end, guys, Thor is probably the most rewatchable Thor film of the 3 Thor films that they've had for me. I love the direction, I love the musical score, I love the cast and some of the characters. I actually like the action scenes a lot more than the other Thor movies. Thor, back in 2011, did some great things with the character of Thor, and I'm going to give it a positive rating in the golden age for Man of Steel. I'm not like highly recommending it as a great work of art or whatever, but I had a lot of fun rewatching this movie. Alright guys, those are my thoughts on Thor. So, have you seen it? Of course you've seen it. It came out like 7 years ago. Favorite Thor movie? This one or the other two? Go ahead and list that in the comment section below. Stay tuned for more reviews. I'll have a review for Captain America the First Avenger probably sometime next week. Like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel. Stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!